Welcome to week 3 of our series, Draw the Line. This series we've been talking about boundaries and limits we need for ourselves, our decisions, our relationships. This week in particular, we are talking about boundaries, but more when someone crosses a boundary. I want to talk about fighting. Now, I have 2 sisters, so as you can imagine, my house was not the most quiet or calm with 3 girls running around. We had many fights over bedrooms, clothing, what show we watch, who showers first, who had no hot water the last time, the that's not fair comparisons of what each other got. It goes on and on. It was not always nice or fun or fair. One time on the way home from school in the car, I was the youngest, so I was probably in 2nd grade. So we were 2nd, 4th, and 8th grade at the time, and we were fighting so much. My mom pulled over on the side of the road, kicked us all out of the car, and drove away. She didn't come back either. We really had to walk miserable, all blaming each other the whole rest of the way home. I guess that's what happens with sisters or siblings or families in general. There's conflict. Personally, I hate conflict. I mean, with my sisters, I wasn't too shy about it, but if I think someone is upset with me, I get really upset. It eats me up inside. But the fact of the matter is, conflict is healthy. Fighting is normal. I know we consider all of these things, arguing, fighting, conflict, as negative, but when it's done the right way, it's actually good for us. Even Jesus had conflict. When his mother Mary wanted him to perform his first miracle, he argued her. His first response was, "Woman, why do you involve me?" I mean, clearly annoyed, fighting her as she's trying to push him to do something he doesn't want to do. Of course, he eventually gives in because I guess we all have to listen to our moms sometimes. But that's when we see Jesus' first miracle of turning water into wine at the wedding at Cana. But he also had conflict with his friends. Jesus is actually shown in the scripture yelling at Peter, one of his closest friends and disciples. In Matthew 16, it says, "From that time on, Jesus began to explain to his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things at the hands of the elders, the chief priests, and the teachers of the law, and that he must be killed, and on the 3rd day be raised to life." Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. "Never, Lord," he said, "this shall never happen to you." Jesus turned and said to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me. You do not have in mind the concerns of God, but merely human concerns." Get behind me, Satan. He's calling Peter, his friend, Satan, the devil. Those are harsh words, especially when they're coming from your friend and the Son of God. But Jesus was setting a boundary here. He still loved Peter, he was still his friend, but he couldn't have Peter's ideas in his head. Jesus knew the mission God had sent him on. He knew he was going to die on that cross. So Peter trying to say, "No, this won't happen to you, you won't die," it wasn't good for Jesus. He needed to set that boundary even with a friend, and he needed to set that boundary for his friend to help Peter realize by saying that and wanting Jesus to live, it was a selfish wish. Jesus was destined for this, and Peter's faith needed to be bigger than just wanting Jesus here on earth with him. Conflict is never easy. Fighting with a friend is never easy, but they are necessary parts of life. We were created to be unique, to have our own viewpoints and opinions, and we can actually learn a lot about ourselves through conflict. We may not all always understand our parents' beliefs or the beliefs of the Catholic Church, the choices of government officials, what our teachers or coaches may tell us to do. You and your friends will have differing opinions. That's okay. We were created for that. We were created to fight fair, and we were created to set boundaries. So conflict is inevitable, but God did not create us to be mean. We will fight, but we will fight fair. Even Jesus getting upset with Peter, he still had love for him. He didn't just cut him off and not explain why he was upset. Boundaries help prepare to fight fair. Boundaries are how we handle the conflict that is inevitable in our lives. What happens when someone gets upset with you? If you're like me, you don't just say, "Oh well." If you hurt someone's feelings, if you cross a line, you fight for that friendship. You apologize. And that's what you expect if it was the other way around. A friend says something hurtful to you, that's a boundary they've crossed. Maybe they made fun of an insecurity they know you have, or brought up something they know you were really embarrassed about. That's boundary number 1 that they have crossed. Now, boundary number 2 is their reaction, what you need from them to repair the conflict. A sincere apology, correcting themselves if they told someone a lie, whatever it may be. If boundaries help prepare to fight fair, that means you need to set your own personal boundaries ahead of time, so you know what they are, you know where the line is, and you're prepared when it's crossed. This week, I challenge you to think about the relationships in your life and what boundaries you already have. Some may have developed naturally, and also what boundaries you may be needing to put in place. That may be how much time you spend on your phone, how much time you're spending in your room, or when it comes to conflict, it may be learning and creating your boundary of when to walk away and take time to cool down. We need boundaries so we are prepared when the inevitable conflict comes, and we need boundaries so we can move forward after conflict. Boundaries help prepare to fight fair.